If there's things that come up, there's challenges that come up, you see them as learning experiences, you don't see them as failures.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Carbs podcast. I'm Jenna Fisher and I'm here with my co-host Reilly Beatty. Today we're going to be answering some questions about holiday fueling. Before we get into anything, this episode will be coming out on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Like most people, we're very excited for Thanksgiving and for the holidays, but we're also super excited to announce our Black Friday deals. RBSN has some awesome discounts that will only be available for a short time, so we wanted to let you, our listeners on the podcast, know about them first. We have one-on-one sessions through RBSN with both Reilly and I that currently we have openings. Knowing that so many people want to start their lifestyle changes in the new year, we wanted to give you some opportunity to get a jump start on that. There are only 45 days left in 2023, and with those 45 days, we want you to have the best outcomes going into 2024. We have some of our best offers available during this time. Typically at RBSN, we offer package deals that come on a month-to-month basis, but with a shorter amount of time before the new year, we wanted to give you the opportunity to take advantage of a smaller package option. This will only be available for Black Friday, so make sure you apply today. We'll leave the information on how to apply for one-on-one coaching with Reilly and I in the podcast description, and you can also find the application on our Instagram page. I'm at Jenna Fisher Nutrition and Reilly is at Reilly Beatty Nutrition.
We're super excited to offer these packages. They're only available until Sunday, November 26th. So you want to make sure that you sign up to work with one of us, and spots are limited, so make sure that you apply today.
Before we get into our questions on today's podcast, we're going to do our high and low section. Reilly, you want to kick us off today?
Yes, I would love to start off with a high. As of the day that this episode is going out, we are officially in single-digit week until baby Beatty is here, which is crazy. I can't believe it. So very excited about that. So that's my high. My low of the week is I'm on a 4-game losing streak on fantasy football, and it's not okay.
Oh no.
I was 6-0 and now I'm 6-4.
Reilly, you just gave the highest high and the lowest low I think you've ever given. Like, what a contrast there.
I'm very upset, but it is more important that the baby's coming. In the meantime, I was trying to, do some fantasy football, and it's not going well. So I'm going to have to make some adjustments this week.
Are you still playing Joe as your quarterback?
So I actually brought Joe back. He was the only person that performed last week, so it didn't even matter.
The crazy thing about fantasy football is you can have the best players on your team and somehow not win a week. It's wild. Like Travis Kelce the other week had like barely any points or something crazy like that. And like Travis Kelce's supposed to be like so good. He must be distracted by Taylor.
Well, supposedly, actually, if you look at like some of the stats and some of the stuff that people have been doing, he performs like 2 or 3 times better when she's in the stands. Like he gets double or triple points. So people are trying to figure out like if she's going to go to a game so like they can bet on him. It's actually really funny like how the whole thing is playing out.
I love it. I love it for them. I won't talk about it because I know some people are super sick about hearing about it, but I'm a huge fan. I want that to work. My high and low for the week. I'll start with my low. I saw an advertisement for a new like sports drink electrolyte mix, and the first selling point that they had was that it was 0 sugar and that there was no sugar in it. And like Reilly and I have talked about so many times on the podcast, depending on your activity and your goals and everything like that, sometimes we want sugar in our electrolyte drinks because that helps us absorb our sodium better. The other thing that I found interesting, even though it was an American brand, they spelled Dietitian because they were claiming that it was like dietitian formulated or something like that. They spelled it with a C. It made me question on whether or not it was actually formulated with the help of dietitians because they had an error in spelling. And I have no room to talk about spelling errors because I spell things wrong all the time. Reilly can vouch for that. It's not my gift, and that's okay. But I just kind of had some questions about that. So always be mindful about what you're purchasing when it comes to sports drinks, electrolytes, all those sorts of things, because sometimes they might not be serving you in the best way possible. My high, though, is that this past weekend on Sunday, I ran a 10K. It was so much fun. I had the best time, and I can't wait to do another one.
The question is, though, did you find a good pair of shoes?
I ran in my old running shoes because I was so nervous. I had bought so many and I didn't train in any of them. So I was like, I don't want to wear a new pair of running shoes for the first time during a race. So my next 10K is in March. I think I'm going to try to do a half marathon in January. I might be wearing new shoes by the time that happens. So we'll see.
Oh my gosh, she's a changed running woman. Look at you.
It was my husband's first race, like running race ever. And now he's like addicted. So if you've ever run in a race before, like that runner's high, that camaraderie, like that slight competition where you get to like compete against yourself, it lights lights something up in you. And he was like, we need to do more races. So we already signed up for the next 10K. We're going to do one in Los Angeles, and I'm super excited.
On the topic of races, are you going to do a turkey trot?
You know, my family is a holiday 5K family, but I didn't sign us up for one this year. Are you guys doing anything like that?
So that's actually really cute. There's like a neighborhood 5K. They do like a neighborhood turkey trot. So unfortunately I cannot run right now because of the baby, but I'm excited to like sit on my porch and like watch them all run through the neighborhood. It's actually really cute.
Just get to be a cheering spectator this Thanksgiving.
That's the goal.
A lot of people are active though and like run some type of a holiday 5K or just, do family football or anything like that. I know a lot of people are trying to integrate fueling with the holidays. So what are some of the biggest holiday fueling concerns you see from athletes, and what tips do you have to kind of overcome those things?
The most common conversation I feel like I've been having like over the past week and a half is just because it's Thanksgiving, like doesn't mean that you're not an athlete. 1 or 2 days of not training does not mean that you need to change your entire fueling plan, your entire approach to food. I also know that many of the athletes that I work with are still going to be active on the holiday. Like you mentioned, we're going to be doing a turkey trot. We're going to be playing football. The activity is just going to look a little bit different. So a lot of the same principles still apply. We still want to eat 3 to 4 meals per day. We still want to be fueling before and after our training, even though our training like looks a little bit different.
For some people, that change in training can be a really difficult thing to navigate. Do you have any tips for like how to kind of navigate those changes, how to keep up with movement and fueling when you might be in a different scenario? I know a lot of people either travel, they might be at home like during this time.
I think something that we always talk about like on this podcast is like those feelings are very valid. These situations that these individuals are going through, like they're very valid feelings. I think the holidays and like Thanksgiving are very stressful. I think what's hard is there's so much information out there right now on how people should navigate the holidays. And I think sometimes people feel guilty for maybe still wanting to stay on their nutrition plan or train around the holidays. And I think there's nothing wrong with still having goals and trying to train, trying to eat healthy. But I think where it becomes dangerous and where it becomes unbalanced is when those behaviors prevent you from enjoying a meal with your family, or they're causing a lot of stress or a lot of restriction throughout the day. Something that I really struggled with when I was kind of going through my nutrition journey is I was so fixated on overdoing Thanksgiving that I would try to compensate throughout the day to almost, again, like make up for all the calories I was going to eat later. And I was setting myself up for not for success, but for failure. Then I would feel guilty, and then I would spiral, restrict the next day, and then I was stuck in that binge restrict cycle. I don't know if anything like that ever happened to you, but that's just like a clear, I guess, memory that I have from when I was struggling in my journey.
Absolutely. One of the things that I remember the most about Thanksgiving, especially when I got into the part of my life where I started to be more conscious of nutrition. Like some of my early memories of Thanksgiving are traveling to see family. We always would go to visit my cousins in Oklahoma, and I have the best memories of that. I love Thanksgiving. But once I got a little bit older and I started to think about nutrition, and I was really kind of fixated on food, and I would hear so many like radio show hosts that would talk about the average consumption of calories for an American on Thanksgiving, and that number would terrify me. And I remember being like, okay, well, if I run in the morning at the holiday 5K and then maybe I go on a walk after dinner, like maybe that can counteract some of the things that I'm doing in the middle of the day. I remember specific occasions in which I would miss out on some of like the other holiday things that go on. We were going to do some type of a Friendsgiving, and instead of doing that, I drove to go to my parents' gym so that way I could run and exercise at my parents' gym. And I used that as an excuse as to why I couldn't go to Friendsgiving, because I knew if I had a Friendsgiving and then I had a week later, I had a real Thanksgiving, that I didn't want to do that, knowing how many calories people typically consume. So I was missing a lot of those memory building things later on because I was fearful of what that was going to do to me.
And that's so sad and so hard because you're not the only person that goes through that. I mean, we talk about this all the time with the clients that we work with, but I think that's why the why behind all of this is so important. You going for a run because you enjoy it, because you're training for something, you're training for a half marathon. There's nothing wrong with that. It's always the why behind the behavior, right? Running a turkey trot, doing a half marathon the day of Thanksgiving because you're worried about eating or using exercise or using your excuse to not go to Friendsgiving because you're going to be having Thanksgiving, the next week, that's where the problem lies. Like, that's the issue.
Absolutely. And we don't want to miss out on those things. And even if I had maybe consumed more than like my caloric need for the day at Friendsgiving, at Thanksgiving, it wasn't going to change my outcome at all. The thing that we are hearing all the time right now, people are always talking about, is we have this huge overconsumption of things and it's too much and all this stuff. In reality, it's one day, it's one single event. It's a time for you to enjoy with your family. We can stay on track if we want to. And like you said, like continue to train if we enjoy it. I know we talk about the festive performance plate and we incorporate our fun foods on that in a way that still allows us to get our other 6 essential nutrients on the plate as well. That's not going to change like the outcome of like my goals now. Like my goal is to have like a great run if I choose to run in January as a half marathon isn't going to be impacted by the fact that like we're going to enjoy Thanksgiving dinner with like some friends here in Arizona or anything like that.
We're so focused on the overconsumption and we're so fear-mongered into thinking about the overconsumption that we actually don't even think about the benefits from athletic perspective of maybe actually overconsumption in a meal. I had this conversation so many times last year where athletes were stressed about this big meal that they're going to consume. And then they might take a rest day or they have a big meal. And then the next day they actually perform better because they're restricting, they're under fueling on most of their days. So their body's actually getting the energy that it needs. It's getting the carbohydrates that it needs. So they feel recovered. Their glycogen stores are full now. And they also took a mental and emotional break. And that allowed them to feel so much better going into their activity.
Yeah, I felt this on a light scale while running this past Sunday. On Saturday, I knew we weren't going to exercise at all. We use performance plates. That's how I build all of my meals. But I was going to use a game day plate the evening before my run the next morning, which is typically a little bit more carbohydrate than our other fueling and performance plates that I have most other days because I don't compete in games regularly. I don't do that. I don't wake up and run a 10K every Sunday morning. I haven't really been training a ton for these runs, and I was continually having discussions with how frustrated I was that I wasn't able to run under an 8-minute mile. And I made sure that I took plenty of rest leading up to running the 10K. I made sure that I was prioritizing using game day plates. And guess what? I consistently ran under an 8-minute mile the whole race. It works.
Let's go. In your old pair of shoes.
I know. There you go.
So if somebody's listening to this podcast and what we're saying really resonates with them, what are a couple ways that they can maybe start switching their mindset and they can feel confident going into the Thanksgiving and holiday season?
I would say that my biggest thing is do what feels comfortable for you. So if you want to continue with training, continue with movement through the holiday season, great. If taking a break seems more like something that would serve you better, fantastic. Also remember that it's inevitable that someone is going to likely comment on what you're choosing to put on your plate, whether you're an athlete, an active person, or anything like that. It's just something that people do. Respect your boundaries. Know when you want to engage in a conversation like that or when you should just let it pass, because sometimes that's the best course of action. And just remember that what you're choosing to put on your plate is no one else's business but your own. And what you're putting on your plate is your choice.
I think that's so important. I also think too that like just giving yourself grace, and if there's things that come up, there's challenges that come up, you see them as learning experiences, you don't see them as failures. So if you're, maybe this is the first time that you are approaching a Thanksgiving meal with a mindset similar to what we've been talking about on the podcast, right? Maybe you listened and you're like, hey, you know what? Like, I don't want to be restricted. I don't want to be stressed out for Thanksgiving dinner. So you take that approach and maybe it goes really well, or maybe it was challenging and there's something to learn from that. So instead of doing drastic things and going the opposite direction, really just like sitting with it and like learning about it and like accepting it and then giving yourself grace where you tried something new and it wasn't perfect, because sometimes we're beginners at things and we're not going to be perfect at them.
I love that. I think one of the things that I talk with clients about is that these hard nutrition experiences, we don't just get to like watch them happen. We have to go through them.
And it doesn't happen overnight.
At RBSN, we use performance plates all the time. I kind of mentioned this already, but can you break down a holiday performance plate?
Yeah. So we talked about this when we were running the Festive Fueling mini training, but we love performance plates, and I love like a holiday performance plate. With our normal performance plates, we have the main categories, which are going to be our carbs, our grains and starches. We have our proteins, we have our color, and then we have our fat on the side. For the holidays, I love focusing on trying to get all of those components in still, but then giving ourselves some grace and breaking up the plate into quarters, right? So I know we only have the protein, the color, and the carbs on the plate. And then the fourth category, because we only have three, would be whatever you want. We call it like our fun feeling focus or a festive feeling focus, because it's helping you get all 6 essential nutrients in, but then allowing yourself the freedom and flexibility to have fun with it as well. Having our fat on the side, having 1/4 carbs, 1/4 protein, 1/4 color, and then adding that fourth quadrant, adding in whatever you want.
Does whatever you want include dessert, or do I get that separate?
Both. You can have pie on the plate and pie on the side, because I think that there's a lot of flexibility also with that fun section, because one meal isn't going to ruin all of your performance, ruin all your body composition goals. It honestly is actually going to help you.
Yeah, because one of the most important parts of fueling is still having those soul nourishing foods included in your plan, because the more that we restrict them, the more that we tell ourselves that we can't have them, the more we create a problematic relationship with food, which in turn does more harm than good.
Exactly. And if you are interested in learning more about the Festive Fueling mini plates, like, let us know. We're thinking about bringing the mini training back to help guide individuals during the holiday season come December. So we'd love to hear if you're interested in the Festive Fueling mini training coming back.
If you are interested in the Festive Fueling mini training coming back, you can DM Reilly, myself, or the Eat More Carbs podcast on Instagram. What would you put on your holiday plate in the fun section?
Ooh, I'm actually going to make a plate, a Thanksgiving Day plate, because Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays. So my protein section is definitely going to be turkey. We are taking like a little bit of a non-traditional approach, and we also do brisket.
Ooh.
There's a really good local barbecue place in Charleston, and we cater from them. So we get like a turkey breast and we do brisket. So I'm putting those in my protein section. My color section, green beans and Brussels sprouts. That's actually what's on the menu. I'm a big stuffing girl. So I love stuffing with some cranberry sauce. I'm putting that in my carbohydrate section. We'll also have potatoes and things like that, but like stuffing and the rolls, those are my go-to carbs. I might be adding in some sweet potatoes, maybe, if we're going in that direction in my fun section, or definitely some type of pumpkin pie, pumpkin cheesecake situation. I have to have that. Even if I'm the only person at Thanksgiving who's eating the pumpkin pie, that's like totally fine. There's more for me. Like, I'm not ashamed. That's in my fun section. What about you?
Okay. For me, protein is turkey for sure. I know a lot of people do ham, but I don't do ham. I don't like it. Don't love it. For my color, I'm going to do roasted carrots, like the multicolored roasted carrots, and Brussels sprouts as well. For my carbohydrate, I'm with you. I'm stuffing. I love stuffing, but I also love mashed potatoes. So I'm going to do a little bit of each there. And then my mom has this recipe for like this cranberry fluffy salad in air quotes, big time, because it's like Cool Whip in the salad type of thing, and cranberry, and like there's some pineapple in there. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, that's
I know
for
what you're
sure.
talking about. Yep. Nobody can see us, but we're shaking. I'm shaking my head.
Yes. So for me, that's my fun food in my fun food section for sure. And this year, I'm going to switch things up a little bit. Reilly can vouch for me on this. I make the best chocolate chip cookies ever. You've had them when I made them during the internship. So I'm going to make chocolate chip cookies for Thanksgiving because I like them, and there are no food rolls on Thanksgiving. We'll probably have some type of like sweet potatoes because my husband loves sweet potatoes. He'll listen to this podcast and he'll learn that I really dislike sweet potatoes. So that will not be. I know. Are you a marshmallow top on your sweet potatoes, or like the nuts and brown sugar?
I'm an unpopular opinion, but I don't love a sweet potato. I'm more of a savory sweet potato girl.
Mm-hmm. When my now husband and I first started dating and I made Thanksgiving dinner, I made the sweet potato casserole with like green onions and bacon and things like that. And he was like, "This is not a sweet potato casserole. Like, what have you done?"
I'm glad
So
you still got married though.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I'll probably leave the sweet potatoes off of my plate because I don't like them. And there is nothing that says you have to include everything that's on the Thanksgiving menu on your plate if you don't want to. So I'll leave that off.
Something I totally forgot about, but I had to add it to our menu because I saw somebody talk about it on the Festive Fueling broadcast channel that we're running right now, is mac and cheese. Someone was like, "I'm responsible for the mac and cheese." And I was like, how did I forget about the mac and cheese.
Oh my gosh, I've never done mac and cheese for Thanksgiving, but that's brilliant.
So smart. She was like, I'm responsible for the mac and cheese. I was like, you have a very important job.
I love that.
That's why we're dietitians, though, so we can get food ideas from other people.
Exactly. When it comes to holiday fueling, remember that there is nothing wrong with filling up your plate using a holiday fueling plate method. And remember to respect your own space. Move if you feel like it. Don't move if you feel like it. And just have a good time with friends and family or however you are celebrating. If you have any questions for Reilly and I, you can always leave them in the comments of this podcast, or you can DM us on Instagram. We're at the Eat More Carbs podcast. And you can find me at jenna.fisher.nutrition, and you can find Reilly at reilly.beatty.nutrition. Make sure you rate, subscribe, and review. And remember, we are running our Black Friday holiday deal through this Sunday, the 26th. So make sure you take advantage of that while it's still available. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Eat More Carbs podcast. On behalf of everyone at RBSN, we hope you have a wonderful, happy, and healthy holiday. And remember to eat more carbs.